We do have important breaking news for you right now. CNN has learned that former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort will surrender today in special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation. As you know, we've been talking about this morning. There was great speculation about who might be charged, and now CNN has this reporting. CNN's Evan Perez joins us with all of the breaking details. What have you learned, Evan?
Well, Addison, later today we expect that this indictment is going to be unsealed in federal court here in Washington, but Paul Manafort is planning to turn himself in to the FBI for processing and then for the court proceedings to take place later today. Again, later this morning we expect that Paul Manafort will turn himself in to the FBI and we'll learn more about the charges. At this point, we do not know the charges. They're still under seal, as we previously reported. These indictments had been approved by the grand jury last week on Friday, and we had expected that today, at least today, we'd see some court action, perhaps the indictments being unsealed and the arrest being made. So we now know that he is planning to turn himself in to the FBI. Now, we also are told that there may be at least one other indictment that will be unsealed later today. We're trying to work to figure out what that is about, and we'll tell you more when we find out. Allison?
We got breaking news. Nick, your newspaper is reporting who it is. What can you tell us?
It's Paul Manafort and his longtime associate, Rick Gates, who've been ordered to surrender. And listen, it's what everyone expected, but it could also be interesting to find out exactly what they're being indicted for. Because Paul Manafort was under investigation before Trump, right, by the feds. And it's fascinating that it's Rick. Rick was also highly involved in the campaign, highly involved in the convention. Both of them were involved in business deals with Eastern European and Russian-aligned oligarchs, excuse me, for years and years. Have a lot of transactions, financial transactions with them. And it remains to be seen exactly which piece of these indictments are about.
Welcome back, and thanks for joining us this morning. I'm Renee Marsh, in for Christy Paul.
I'm Victor Blackwell. Good to be with you. Critical items on the president's agenda, as well as the first charges in the Russia investigation at the top of the list of what's happening in Washington this week.
And someone could be in custody as early as tomorrow when a judge is expected to unseal the first indictment in special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation into possible collusion between Russia and the Trump campaign, as well as possible obstruction of justice by the president. Then on Tuesday, major tech companies Facebook, Twitter, and Google will be on Capitol Hill to testify on Russia's use of social media to influence the 2016 election.
Up next, the big policy deadline on Wednesday. That's the day House Republicans have to introduce their tax reform bill. On Thursday, Trump campaign foreign policy advisor Carter Page will be interviewed by the House Intelligence Committee on Russia's meddling in the election. And then Friday, President Trump will head off for his 12-day trip to Asian countries amid the North Korea nuclear threat. So a lot to discuss this morning, so let's do that. Joining me now, Andre Bauer, CNN political commentator, former lieutenant governor of South Carolina, and Maria Cardona, CNN political commentator and Democratic strategist. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning, Victor.
Good morning. Andre, let me start with you. And of course, we have to start with the big headline this weekend of those first charges, according to CNN sources, coming in the Russia investigation. How does that impact the president's agenda? Is it enough of a distraction to make tax reform, tax cuts, even more difficult to get through?
It's definitely a distraction. I mean, it keeps him off his game to continue to hear this drip, 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 and for the media to be asking him about it. I mean, the American public needs to have some closure to this, so I hope that quickly and swiftly we'll get to the bottom of it, move past it, because first and foremost, the American people, when they elected Donald Trump, they were looking for things like tax reform. One of the key things that people wanted to see changed, and if he doesn't get it done, then he will have problems in the midterm elections. And it's a real defining moment for the Republicans to say, hey, this is where we differentiate from the Democrats substantially, and they have got to take a leadership role and get this done no matter what else is going on. And if they don't, just like Senator Graham talked about, they're going to have some problems. I think they'll get it done. I think they'll have I think they'll have even some cross-party help. But it is a key moment for the Republicans to take a leadership role, and they've been given the opportunity. They got to do it.
I want to talk more about the impact on tax reform on 2018 in just a moment, but your reaction, your response rather, Maria, to that, how big of a distraction, how important this charge or charges that are coming, they'll be to the president's agenda?
I think it will be a huge distraction, and I think this is a critically important point in the investigation moving forward. Look, we've already seen that this president and this Republican Congress have been a complete failure and have been completely unable to get anything done to pass any part of their agenda. I think it's part of why the Trump administration is so desperate in either trying to shut down the Mueller investigation. They've been attacking Mueller. They've been attacking the motives behind the investigation. They've even tried to bring in Hillary Clinton yet again because they're obsessed with trying to get the American public to look the other way. I think they are very nervous, very scared about what Mueller is going to find down the line. Now, I know my friend Andre would like to think that this investigation is going to come to a close pretty soon, but from what most of the legal experts are saying is that these indictments on Monday is probably just the beginning of a very long investigation that is going to come. And President Trump, we've already seen he's completely unable to focus when he is not facing these things. So imagine when he's in the middle of indictments.
However,
I think it doesn't bode well for the Republican Party.
He has been able to hold the line, the entire White House staff, on holding that no comment line since the news broke here on CNN on Friday night. Andre, you mentioned Senator Lindsey Graham, who spoke about the Republicans' need to pass tax reform. I want you to listen to the senator here.
Well, I think all of us realize that if we fail on taxes, that's the end of the Republican Party's governing majority in 2018. We'll lose the House, probably lose ground in the Senate. I can't imagine how he could be successful with Nancy Pelosi running the House. They'd try to impeach him pretty quick, and it'd be just one constant investigation after another. So it's important that we pass tax reform in a meaningful way. If we don't, that's probably the end of the Republican Party as we know it.
Now, we've heard from a few others who say that maybe there will be some problems in the Senate, but they'll possibly hold on to the House. How widespread is that fear that not passing tax reform, or at least the tax cuts, will jeopardize the majorities?
You're asking me, Victor?
Yes.
Oh, well, it's big. Look, the Republican Party is supposed to be the party of less government. They're supposed to be the party that reduces taxes. And if they can't come together on the most unifying issue in the Republican Party, bar none, less taxes, less government, then they should kick them out of office. I mean, they need to be replaced. I hope they're replaced with more conservative Republicans, but something's got to change. I mean, Washington is not Washington, and it's not run right when the Republicans say, give us the leadership roles we want. They get the House and Senate, and they don't do it. So I expect, as a Republican, as a conservative, and as an American, for them to do something about tax reform. Absolutely, unequivocally, they've got to get it done.
Let me ask you, as a conservative, and you say there should be more conservatives replacing the people who don't get it done. Would those conservatives vote for a tax plan that potentially would add $1.5 trillion to the deficit over 10 years?
I know that's the drumbeat people that so often want to discourage tax reform, but growth, we have seen every time growth cover that. I mean,
but for fiscal hawks who want to control the deficit, bring down deficits, pay off debt, how can they carry that banner, but also vote for
about paying down the debt, except when you talk about reducing taxes? They never have any interest. I mean, Obama raised $8 trillion worth of debt, but somehow Democrats become budget hawks when we talk about reducing taxes for the working class.
But where are the Republican budget hawks now?
The Republican budget hawks are saying this is clearly taken up with growth. I mean, look at the growth of the country right now under Donald Trump. Can you imagine it if we get tax cuts? You are seeing businesses come back to this country in big numbers. You are seeing investment in this country. People like me that own small businesses are doing better than they've ever done because of a change in leadership that wants pro-business. And when you have that combined with reduction in taxes, I don't save as much anymore. I reinvest it because of the implications it affects me on taxes.
Let me get Maria back in here. Maria, I know you want to respond to that, but also let me get you to respond to, is this a tougher fight for Democrats than health care was?
I think this will be a fight, but it will be a fight because the majority of the American people right now do not support the current quote, tax reform plan that is on the table from this administration. The reason for that is because it is a huge wet kiss to millionaires and billionaires like Donald Trump, and it does relatively nothing, if not damages, the economies of middle class and working class families. What we have seen from economists so far is that, you know, this talking point about, oh, don't worry about the deficits because we're going to make it up in growth is poppycock. Let's look at history. Ronald Reagan tried it, and the economy just completely tanked. President Bush tried it, and the economy completely tanked. Under what past presidents has the economy actually grown and expanded? Under President Clinton and under President Obama. That gives you the history that when you focus on helping middle class and that you actually ask the higher classes, the 1%, to pay a little bit more, that is when the economy grows.
All right, we got to wrap it here. Maria Cardona, Andre Bauer, thank you very much. The deadline on Wednesday, and then just about 14 working days for the Senate, fewer for the House to get something passed by their Thanksgiving deadline. Thank you both.
Thank you.
See you now.